Of International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women on November 25, 2020, it is pertinent to note that governments at all levels have kept faith with various responses to address the ugly trend in the face of COVID-19. There has been establishment of a national tool for gender-based violence data management with critical stakeholders at work, even as an interministerial committee on eradication of sexual and gender-based violence has been in existence since the 23rd of July 2020, conducting a review of all the existing laws and policy instruments touching on the subject matter. Gender-based policy guidelines in emergency response have equally been developed to cater for absence of gender-focused responses during emergencies such as the COVID-19. Of course, in improving the economic status of women and mitigate the socio-economic effects of the coronavirus pandemic, the government has prioritized vulnerable groups, including women, in the provision of medical and social support. In fact, in the last 1 year, more than 1 million Nigerians have been enrolled into National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households to enable them to have access to needed social assistance through trade and money, market money and farmers' money under the Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program. In addition to these, government has also ensured that the fundamental human rights and freedom of this group is respected, bearing in mind the necessity to empower women and girls for the realization of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the African Union Agenda 2063, as well as the Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action. Tonight, we shall continue the conversation on gender-based violence, Nigeria's response in the face of COVID-19. We do have contributions from across the zones, and our guest is Saudatu Mahdi, Executive Secretary, Women's Rights Advancement and Protection Agency, RAPA. My name is Kenan Ima Aburike. Now the news. Another important milestone has been recorded in boosting the power supply in the country as Minister of Power Salim Maman inaugurated the completed 132 kVA Gagarawa substation in Jigawa State. Mohammed Musa Askiwa reports that residents of communities to benefit from the substation expressed optimism that the substation will bring immeasurable new business opportunities to them.
The commissioning of the 13233 kV transmission substation is expected to increase the capacity of the nation's power transmission and, most importantly, increase the bulk power supply in Jigawa State and beyond. Electricity consumers within Gagarawa, Taura, Gumel, Ringim and Niga local government areas will, by commissioning of this project, enjoy more stable power supply and further boost the capacity of small-scale business entrepreneurs in the areas and the state at large. Minister of Power Salim Maman and Governor Muhammadu Badru Abubakar say the commissioning of the 13233 kV transmission substation will make objectives of Jigawa State industrialization drive realizable.
And we have agreed with Manufacturers Association of Kano. About 20 factories are coming to this area, and this is because of this project. This project is designed with power supply in industrial areas in order to promote economic activities.
Residents in the benefiting communities are optimistic that the transmission substation will turn around the economic fortune of the communities for the better. NTA News recalls that Gagarawa substation contract awarded in 2012 was abundant due to paucity of funds, but the Buhari administration revived the project and is now a reality to the appreciation of people and governments of Jigawa State. The happiness shown by the people of these communities has indicated the fact that the commissioning into operation of the Gagarawa power transmission substation has indeed opened up business opportunities for the people and governments of Jigawa State. From the Gagarawa power transmission substation in Jigawa State, Muhammad Musa Askira, NTA News.
The federal government has rolled out intervention program towards boosting food production during dry season farming activities. The initiative is also to cushion the effects of losses recorded as a result of flood during the year. Musa Baba Aliyu reports.
Farmers described the 2020 rainy season as a promising one, as the rains came early, as predicted by the Nigeria Meteorological Agency. Farmers took advantage of it and planted crops in good time. The cropping season was, however, disrupted by flood that submerged and washed away farms and produce that were ready for harvest.
What Kebbi State has lost in terms of crops will run into billions of naira. Federal government should not be left alone to provide agri inputs to the farmers. It is the sole responsibility of the state government. After all, agriculture is on the concurrent legislative list.
The federal government is therefore supporting farmers with improved seeds of rice, wheat, groundnut, cowpea and soybeans for the dry season farming. Equipment for irrigation and chemicals were also provided to farmers in Kebbi and Jigawa states.
The issue of food security is fundamental to this administration, and they will do all what we can do to ensure the food security.
This group of women, including Zulaihatu, who is 7 months pregnant, are among the beneficiaries of the federal government's gesture, having lost between 2 to 5 hectares of rice to flooding in Jigawa state. I am not discouraged even when the flood destroyed my farm, and this support will make me produce more during the dry season, she says. All the seeds given to them are expected to mature between 90 to 120 days after planting. From Awuyo, Jigawa State, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
In the meantime, no fewer than 200 rural women in Ondo State have received a one-off special grant of 20,000 naira each, initiated by the federal government to assist the poor and the vulnerable in the country. Olubukola Aduwo reports.
Beginning of the program in Ondo State, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, said the grant was introduced to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty by 2030. She explained that the package is expected to support the financial needs of the beneficiaries in order to increase their income and subsequently strengthen economic activities across the country.
Our message to the women is to utilize this money efficiently and effectively by way of investing it into small businesses so that they can have good returns and they'll be able to fend for themselves and members of their families. Ondo State Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, while expressing gratitude to the federal government for the relief package, said the grant would contribute largely to poverty alleviation.
The state cannot thank you enough for your sustained interest of our women, in the welfare of our children, in the welfare of other vulnerable members of society. You are doing well.
The grant, according to the minister, will go around the 777 local government councils in Nigeria. In Akure, Olubukola Aduwo, NTA News.
Now, the last may not have been heard from the family of the deceased newspaper vendor in Abuja, Ifeanyi Okereke, as his widow, Josephine, has distanced herself from the reported 500 million naira compensation demand on the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila. Abdullahi Suleiman Yaji has more.
Speaker House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila had condoled the family of late Ifeanyi Okereke in Suleja, where a trust fund to cater for the family needs was announced. House of Representatives also honored the deceased on the floor of the House at plenary. Suddenly, a 500 million naira set seeking compensation by some family members was reported, a move that Ifeanyi's widow, Stephanie Okereke, is opposed to.
I hear news that we are demanding for 5. I say, but me, I didn't know that they are demanding. I was shocked, even crying. Say, how would they be demanding such that kind of money instead of them finding ways how we will bury this, how you will bury his son.
In solidarity with the widow, the family friend and legal advisor to the Newspaper Vendors Association Abuja, who demanded justice be served.
We are not asking for money. 500 million naira will not even bring Ifeanyi Chukwu Okereke back. Any amount of money, it cannot even bring this young man back. It's very, what we need is justice. I want to say again that the steps taken by the Speaker
are also highly commendable, because there's no vicarious liability to the speaker.
Ifeanyi Okereke, a newspaper vendor around the Federal Secretariat, died from wounds he sustained from gunshots by one of the security detail attached to the speaker.
Experts say for the country to have people of integrity in leadership, there must be change from the formative stage and build moral values in the young people from home. Integrity as one and most important for a leader was the climax of the first phase of the Nigerian Prize for Leadership Dialogue Series. That has 60 youths participating of the Ambassadors Leadership Program as participants. Haman Jabani reports.
Youth can leverage on various opportunities and platforms to build leadership in Nigeria and take deliberate steps of integrity that will transform the nation. The present generation must also articulate and deliberately plan how to impact next generation with value of integrity. These are important for the Nigerian Prize for Leadership as it poised to model today's youth on the way forward.
The concept of integrity begin to go into the consciousness of our young people, so that when they become leaders, they will learn to do things differently.
For the ambassadors, MPL is Wikipedia for now, and Nigeria will be great again.
With consistency, we develop the kind of mindset that will take our country to where we all wish and pray it gets to.
There is so much that the Nigerian people have to offer, especially youth. All we are asking for is the opportunity to do so.
Because they understood that the development of this country is far more important than any other sentiment.
The first phase of the Nigerian Prize for Leadership, which started in May 2020, centered on what it takes to be a good leader. The second phase is believed to examine other issues that will make Nigeria a leading example in the Committee of Nations. Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the leadership of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, is to meet with its organs with the latest resolutions reversed to government. Although details of the resolutions the union is to take to its members were not revealed to journalists. The good news, however, is that the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, confirmed the government is already meeting the demands of the lecturers. The president of ASU, Biado Oguyemi, equally described their talks as fruitful, and whatever their members feel about the latest development will be brought to government for subsequent consideration. Team Lagos has emerged winner of the 2020 President's Enter Superb National Debate Championship for primary schools. Olayinka Ojo reports that the Debate Championship was also used to celebrate Nigeria's 60th independence anniversary.
For 10 days, 10 teams from different states of the country slugged it out at this year's Inter-Subeb Primary School National Debate Championship. After rigorous intellectual exercises, Team Lagos and Team Ebonyi emerged as finalists.
Providing free education for the citizens who portray the image of Nigeria. Opposition are denying the truth. Denying the truth does not change the facts.
With convincing use of constructive persuasion for and against the motion, abolishing free education in Nigeria, Team Lagos proved more assertive and believable enough to win the finals.
Faith is everything. I also want everybody to know that everyone is a winner.
And it's one of the best feelings I've ever had in my entire life. Confidence, boldness, and then good manners.
Being a competition for primary school pupils between the ages of 9 and 12, this riot act was read for states that came with participants above the age limits.
If a state presents pupils that are overaged, don't even allow them to debate.
By next year now, they will come their birth certificate. If your age is a month older, you will disqualify.
The President's Inter-Subeb School Debate started 20 years ago, and based on their performance at the 2020 competition, Lagos, Ebonyi, and Niger States will be representing Nigeria at next year's World Schools Debate Championship. Olayinka Ojo, NTA News.
Let's go to defense now, where the Chief of Defense Staff, General Abayomi Olonishaki, has lauded efforts of the Nigerian Armed Forces towards improved national security across land and maritime domains. General Olonishake, speaking at the Naval War College Nigeria graduation ceremony in Calabar, says the engagement of the armed forces in various security operations across the country is no mean feat. Achibong Basi reports.
Developing senior naval officers to discharge various services as well as operational level commanders with thorough appreciation of complex national security problems, the Naval War College Nigeria runs various courses. Principal among them is the Naval Warfare course.
It is therefore deserving that I commend your resilience, hard work and endurance of all participants of course 4 for having gone through the rigors of the course with faith and endurance.
Today's 21 graduates of the Naval Warfare Course 4 will join the list of other Naval Warfare Course graduates from these prestigious security studies citadel.
I make bold to state that these graduates, like their forebears, have been imbued with the requisite capacity that will enable them to plan and conduct Nigeria's wars intellectually and courageously.
I would like to especially thank our brother, the Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral I.E. Ibas, for doing us the honor of establishing the Naval War College in Calabar.
Achievements and contributions of the college to the Nigerian Navy and the Defense Headquarters Joint Operations is made possible through the support of the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas. In Calabar, Achibombasi, NTA News.
And still talking security matters, the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole has neutralized several Islamic State of West Africa province elements and destroyed the hideout at Ngurigana along the Golum-Bangana-Kumshe axis, as well as at Tumbuma Baba on the fringes of Lake Chad, both in the northern part of Borno State. In a statement by Coordinator Defense Media Operation Major General John Enenche, this was achieved through airstrikes executed on 27th November 2020 as part of a new subsidiary operation tagged Wutar Tabki 2. The coordinated attacks launched by the Air Task Force employing an enhanced force package of Nigerian Air Force fighter jets and helicopter gunships resulted in the destruction of some of the terrorist structures as well as the neutralization of several ISWAP fighters. Now, Nasarawa State government says 9 suspects have been arrested in connection with the killing of APC chairman Philip Shekwo. Governor Abdullahi Sule said this when he received the delegation of Trade Union Congress TUC Women Wing in Lafia. He assures them that government is reviewing security strategies to strengthen for effective surveillance and equipping personnel for quick response to distress calls. Aliyu Tijani Mohammed reports that the unionist said perpetrators should be apprehended to serve as warning that no one commits crime and go unpunished.
After killing the officers, they recovered 4 AK-47 rifles from them.
President Muhammadu Buhari has described the former military governor of Plateau State, Rear Admiral Samuel Bitrus Atukum, who turns 80, as one of the most dedicated military officers that served under him as head of state. In a statement, the president said Admiral Atukum belongs to a crop of officers whose zeal for duty and patriotism was impressive and worthy of emulation. He paid glowing tribute to the retired military officer, noting with delight that Atukum had put professionalism and patriotism above other interests in the service of his country, and Nigeria cannot forget his sacrifices in the defense of its territorial integrity. He prayed God to bless the elder statesman with better health and longer life. Similarly, Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State recalls that as military administrator of Plateau State, Rear Admiral Atukum exhibited exemplary leadership while encouraging peaceful coexistence among the people. Governor Lalong noted that he also did a lot in protecting the environment through planting of trees and reclamation of farmlands lost to mining activities. Culture remains a strong force in unifying the Nigerian people. Harnessing these potentials, therefore, will lead to greater national unity and development. These views were expressed at the closing ceremony of the 33rd edition of the National Festival of Arts and Culture, NAFEST 2020, held at the Rwampam Stadium in Jos. Priscilla Gurumnan reports.
It was 7 days of cultural extravaganza as contingents from the 36 states of the nation showcased the rich heritage which strengthened the bond of unity of the Nigerian people. The theme, post-COVID-19 and cultural dynamism, signifies uncommon courage to rise above challenges and show that arts and culture can be used to revive all aspects of socio-economic life. Apart from the cultural display, prizes were carted away in innovative arts and crafts, choral music, local cuisines, and essay writing, among other categories, with Bayelsa State clinching the overall position. The need for the promotion of the rich cultural heritage, norms, and values that reflect the true identity of the Nigerian nation took center stage.
I'm sure the seed that this event has sown in the hearts of our children will germinate and grow to create great icons of art and culture in the future. Having again come together and exchange ideas, as well as display our cultural and artistic varieties.
If we're able to blend sports and culture together, then this country can remain peaceful, united.
The weather in Jos is enough to change our economic strength.
Of NAFEST 2020. It is indeed a unity forum.
The festival came to an end with the symbolic closing of the Unity Calabash from the Rwampam Township Stadium in Jos. Priscilla Gumnan, NTA News.
This is NTA Weekend File. We now take a break for some messages, issues bordering on gender-based violence on Weekend File tonight.
A scorecard like no other. Government has put in place measures and initiatives principally targeted at youths, women, and the most vulnerable groups in our society. These included broad plan to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years. The creation of 75 billion naira National Youth Investment Fund to provide opportunities for the youths, and the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Survivor Fund, through which government is A. paying 3-month salaries of the staff of 100,000 micro, small and medium enterprises. B. paying for the registration of 250,000 businesses at the Corporate Affairs Commission. C. giving a grant of 30,000 naira to 100,000 artisans and guaranteeing market for the products of traders. These are in addition to many other initiatives such as farmer money, trader money, market money, N-Power, N-Tech, and N-Agro. These and more in spite of a recession and a global pandemic.
We don't almost reach, Abby. Okay. Guys, the mechanic is almost here.
Madam!
So what do you think is wrong?
Madam, no be smart way they want to do your bike, carburetor and radiator. You don't pafuka. If you want to fix that, 50,000.
I guess I have no choice. Give me size 10 Allen Q.
Madam, the top of those points, you need to buy new one. New one at 16,000.
Thanks for the help, guys. I'll be on my way now. For renting your tools.
Do what you've never done before. unlimited data plans. Dial *777#.
I will get you arrested. Very, very easy.
That social media is not good or bad, and that it is you who is using it that is either good or bad. Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, verify the information, and reflect before sharing it. Now, are you a good social media user? Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source for a better Nigeria.
This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
The Council of Our Fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Welcome back to Weekend Foul. Gender-based violence, mostly targeted against women and children, often go unreported and has assumed a global phenomenon that transcends socio-economic boundaries. Yahanasu Hassan Barau in Kano examines how the COVID-19 stay-at-home order has increased the cases of violence against women and the position of the Northern Nigeria Penal Code in bringing perpetrators to justice.
Over the years, violence against women has been on the increase, even more in the face of the coronavirus pandemic, as they depend solely on their male partners for financial support. This has been linked to the fact that the menial jobs most of them engaged in are no longer forthcoming due to the effect of the pandemic on economic activities. Statistics by the National Human Rights Commission Office showed that within the period of COVID-19 lockdown, the Commission recorded more than 1,000 cases of violence against women and girls, which showed an increase as against last year. Just like many victims of domestic violence, 27-year-old Felicia, a mother of two, said she has been traumatized by her husband for more than 4 years.
Since when I born my first child, that is when he started behaving like that. Following different women, following my friends, sleeping with my friends, following them up and down. And I cannot talk, I'm beaten. Even this wound in my face is the one that hurt me.
Though a number of laws exist to protect women and girls against violence, they are, however, not often effectively implemented, like the case of Khadija, who was reportedly assaulted by her school teacher, is still awaiting trial.
When they came back from school, she went to ease herself and was complaining of pain. All I want is for justice to prevail.
What then is the position of the Northern Nigeria Penal Code on cases like this?
If somebody uses a dangerous weapon to attack his wife or any other person, Section 248 of the Northern Nigerian Penal Code prescribes a punishment of 14 years imprisonment.
Creating awareness to address gender-based violence will require a multi-pronged approach, hence the commemoration of 16 days activism, which is targeted to ensure justice for people like Felicia and Khadija. In Kano, Yohannes Hassan Barrow, NTA News.
Kogi, like other states with prevalence of gender violence and girl-child defilement, is making a frantic effort to speedily domesticate the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, following the reports of rape and violence recorded over time. Correspondent what&where gives us a vivid account of incidences of violence against women and efforts by the government and civil society organizations to rate the state of the anomaly.
Gender-based violence, a societal menace rooted deeply in perceived inequality and sexual harassment of women and girls, continues to be one of the most dreaded human rights violations, with Kogi battling to navigate ways of its own to discourage the practice, especially in the last 1 year. A leading CSO personality, Eunice Abimbola Agbogun, says 1 in every 20 women has been raped, 1 in 3 physically or sexually harassed, and 1 in 20 offenders convicted, with an alarming rate of 30% of victims.
Since the beginning of the pandemic, the statistic actually went high. So we got at least over 20 cases that we received reports from the local government within Kogi State.
There are prevalent cases. At least we've recorded about 9 to 10 cases of gender-based violence from April to July.
Still fresh and dated back to the early stages of the COVID-19 lockdown was a case of a young lady who was allegedly raped and brutalized by a notable political figure. These cases, civil society organizations say, are just few and nothing compared to the unreported cases of female genital mutilations, forced abortions, early child marriages, child defilement, and arbitrary deprivation of liberty.
When we are talking of gender-based violence, it varies. There is sexual abuse, there is domestic violence, but if such cases are not reported, how do we do documentation?
To overcome this anomaly, civil society organizations recommended that the economic situation of women be improved, deliberate action be taken to punish rape and sexual offenders, and above all, see women's rights as fundamental human rights. In Lokoja, Kogi State, what&where, NTA News.
With me in the studio is Saudatu Madi, the Secretary General, Women's Rights Advancement and Protection Alternative, rapper. You're welcome to Weekend File.
Thank you, and good evening, listeners.
How do you react to gender-based violence in the COVID-19 context?
Gender-based violence within the context of the COVID-19 saw a spiral in the numbers going up from the normal. For example, in Rapa, we moved from an average of 3 a day to over 10 a day. The second context issue was the lack of means for service providers such as Rapa and social welfare and even other responders to reach survivors or to reach victims. The third is that women and girls and even other vulnerable persons were locked up with their abusers with no recourse and nowhere to run to. But most important, we realized that there wasn't any special arrangement that would have enabled service providers to meet up with the needs of the survivors of gender-based violence. What we also saw within that context was people who were used to doing, or perpetrators who would go out and do it, were now locked up. So the rate of incest rose up, where brothers, uncles, and fathers were actually abusing their daughters and sisters and other female wards.
Now, how is the 16 days of activism, going, and what are we expecting at the end?
Well, there's an annual theme for the 16 days of activism. This year, it is hinged on 4 issues. 1, the funding for gender-based violence response. 2, responding to gender-based violence. And 3, preventing it. And the 4th is collect. Now, what do we mean when we say fund? We are saying that gender-based violence there must be investment. Governments and institutions must invest in responding to gender-based violence. And the response must entail a zero-tolerance culture in our communities, in our families, such that when a girl or a woman suffers gender-based violence, the response from her community, from her family, is one that says, you are not alone, we are here to support you. And then there is a zero tolerance which says the perpetrator must be held to account. Prevention also includes the zero tolerance culture, which we cultivate only by our own socialization. If we make gender-based violence everybody's business and everybody's task to end and to reduce, or rather to reduce and to end, then it becomes, and then data. We do not have primary data collection mechanisms. Thank God Nigeria has launched the Sexual Offenders Register in January 2020, which begins to help us. The Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and civil society organizations are also working to see that with the improvements we now have in reportage, because hitherto survivors of gender-based violence do not want to speak out. But now there is some significant shift, positive shift in terms of reportage and in terms of response. So we need to be able to have data that would help us to design response mechanisms and response situations. But I think most important is this collective responsibility. Right now, contextually, we are speaking about a second wave of COVID-19. Now, the gender-based violence is an everyday occurrence. As such, we need to be able to say, what are those responsibilities from the self to the collective? What do we do? What do I do as a household head? What do I do as a traditional leader? What do I do as a religious leader? Everyone has a role in responding to gender-based violence. And so the theme for this year, which says Orange the World, fund, prevent, respond, and collect, means that there is a strand, a multi-sectoral. That is to say, you are not going to address gender-based violence from only one window. There are many windows, and these windows are interconnected. When you have legislations, over the intro, I had someone speaking to the issue of Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. This is just a law. A law in itself is not enough. It has to be financed. The institutions that are going to implement it have to be financed. That means we need to go beyond just the name of gender budgeting. We must give the Federal Ministry of Health the monies to train doctors to identify a woman who comes in with a syndrome of psychological abuse in hospital. We need to also equip the police to understand how to even communicate with the survivor of gender-based violence. So financing is very, very important. It's very key.
All right, we'll talk some more.
Thank you.
You're watching Weekend File on the NTA. Stay with us as we go on another break.
Breakfast today, every day.
Nestle, good food, good life.
Wednesday, 5:28 p.m. Getting ready to lay down some tunes, but something ain't right. There's some discomfort in my throat. No worries though, TomTom Fresh Lime is here to save the day. Discomfort gone, time to bring the heat. Thanks TomTom Fresh Lime for giving me the relief. TomTom Fresh Lime, cool with a zing.
The Administrative Staff College of Nigeria, ASCON, announces the commencement of sale of forms for the 2021 Public Service Examination. Date Saturday 28th November and Saturday 19th December 2020. Target audience, personnel of the following organizations: federal ministries and parastatals, state parastatals, state civil service commissions, local government service commissions, other interested public institutions. Interested candidates can purchase the PSC forms at ASCON Liaison Office, Abuja, ASCON Zonal Office, Port Harcourt, and the main complex, Topo Badagry. All registered forms for the 2021 Public Service Examination must be submitted to the place of purchase not later than Friday 18th December 2020. For further information, please contact the Director of Administration and Human Resource, ASCON Topo Badagry, on 003-480-3358 or info@ascon.gov.ng. You can also visit ASCON website at www.ascon.gov.ng. Announcer AC Nwankwo for Director General, ASCON.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
While governments, individuals, and organizations work towards eliminating violence against women globally, Lagos State inclusive is leaving nothing to chance to punish offenders as a means of discouraging the act. Though significant success has been recorded, yet with more conscious efforts by victims, the law will fully take its course. Andy Daniels has the detail.
Respondents agree that violence against women and girls has been on the increase, especially during the lockdown. They also say this abuse goes across all ages, class, and background.
Especially when it comes to sexual harassment.
Because he feels like the mommy is weak and he has authority over her and he can beat her whenever he wants.
We handle such cases quite often because the church is made up of human beings.
Lagos State has a very effective and special court that handles cases of domestic violence against women and girls. Offenders are liable to pay 100,000 naira fine or 5 years imprisonment or both. These respondents cited religious intervention, fear of being stigmatized as among reasons why the law may not have been duly followed.
People are not coming forward to lodge report with the police to lead to prosecution. Some of them might be afraid of lodging report against their husband, but I can assure you once such report is lodged with the government, the prosecution is effective.
Court is the last solution, and the punishment also is the last solution. Before the punishment, the imams ask to enlighten the ummah, the community, the Muslim community.
A situation whereby we give such people opportunity, maybe whether we can make good people out of them rather than killing them.
Lawyers will come out and defend you vigorously and quote laws for you, and you find out that they say maybe you can go without any, you have no case to answer.
While everybody awaits the justice system for victims of violence against women and girls to live up to expectations, they also advise that all concerned parties should work together to actualize that dream. In Lagos, Annie Daniels, NTA News.
It's been a deep source of worry to governments and civil society organizations who have made efforts to check gender-based violence against women and girls in the country, with little or no impact on victims of the crime against humanity. As the world creates more awareness on the need to stop gender-based violence and initiate legislation to bring perpetrators of the wicked acts to book, Chika Ugu takes a look at government intervention in the face of COVID-19.
Battering, human trafficking, female genital mutilation, and child abuse are some of the heinous crimes against humanity, which often leaves victims psychologically depressed, withdrawn, and bitter, or in extreme cases, dead. Investigations reveal that women and girls are most affected, making them the most vulnerable. This gender-based violation of human rights has largely gone unabated despite efforts by government, civil society organizations, and other stakeholders to mitigate the scourge with devastating effects on society.
You record with me that within the entrance of COVID till now, over 1,700 cases of domestic violence, IPV, forced marriage, child battering, sexual gender-based violence has been recurring.
Encourage people to plan for post-COVID traumatic stress, engaging ourselves in agribusiness.
Since the domestication of the acts of violence against persons in Enugu State, many are yet to take advantage of the enactment to seek justice in a court of law. This is because it remains largely unreported. Stigmatization, shame, and societal belief around some domestic human rights violation.
That we're very happy was that even the president proclaimed a state of emergency against violence against women.
Experts and civil society organizations in the state are of the opinion that the success of the various laws against gender-based violence depends largely on the level of awareness, acceptance, and the political and moral will of governments, religious bodies, traditional rulers, and all the leaders of thought to implement these laws. In Enugu, Chika Ugu, NTA News.
Of course, Dr. Bali, the Secretary General, Women's Rights Advancement and Protection Alternative Rapper, is still very much around. Let's ask you this. To what extent has rapper gone on showing victims, or rather justice, for survivors, or would I say victims of gender-based violence?
The primary calling for rapper is assistance to access justice and to ensure that justice is delivered to the survivors of gender-based violence. To that end, rapper and over the years too, rapper has become well known for supporting women in litigation and also supporting their reconciliation with their perpetrators in the courts and beyond the courts. One of the key major wins for rapper in doing this work is our methodology. We start with extending the right to fair hearing to the perpetrator, and then we also work with the police to ensure that evidence is gathered and preserved and that prosecution is very vigilant, such that you don't get a situation where a perpetrator whose victim might have even died being given a bail. We also ensure that women do stand up within the family to say they want justice, because the cry for justice is one of the things that has really stopped, has fed impunity, where perpetrators don't see reportage, that they don't see women coming out because of stigmatization, and because also they know the legal system or the administration of the legal system around sexual gender-based violence is almost in favor of some of them. As such, RAPA does a lot of sensitization to help the women package themselves, to help the women to also press down the pedal for justice and to stand up. Rape cases, all sexual gender-based violence, especially when they happen within the family, are difficult to prosecute. The level of investigation is sometimes truncated by the silence of members of a family. It is also truncated by the fact that society at large does not want to be seen as using the violence of the streets. But the most important thing we know is we are working to strengthen the survivor first. Our response is survivor focused, because in all of this English, the survivor is missing. And it is very important that the survivor remains committed to accessing justice, because where the survivor says, I'm tired, I can't continue, where a woman whose husband, who has named her, thinks, okay, if they put my husband in jail, what happens to me? And that brings us to one point, very, very important in terms of seeking justice, the economic empowerment of women.
I was going to that.
The capacity of women to say, I can stand the absence of the man, or I have a contribution which I can continue to sustain myself and my family as long as I will get justice.
Okay, now talking about that economic empowerment for women and girls, you know, the government, you know, at all levels, have done a lot in terms of initiating programs where these girls and women could key in and become, you know, self-reliant. So what are you doing to ensure that they get access to these initiatives and programs?
Thank God, the key word you have used in this statement is access.
Access, very important.
A lot of the first thing we are looking at is the political will. With the context of COVID-19, political will was forced to go a needle higher because the outcry for something coming from government being focused, stimulus packages that are directed at women so that their dignity and their capacity to absorb the shock of poverty and degradation was addressed. The most important thing about the stimulus packages is access. How are they, how are they distributed? Who has access? What else do we see? Look at what is happening in conflict situations. There is the cry about, sex for food. In the distribution of palliatives, research that we have done has shown us that women had to degrade themselves to be able to access some of the palliatives that government gave. It is there in Korokoro, as Nigerians will say. The second thing is that this declaration of zero tolerance is a statement. It needs to be financed. Zero tolerance means that women have where to go to. Okay. And when they go there, their dignity is also protected. Right. We have sexual assault referral centers in every place. Even within the administration of COVID, what special essential services have been declared for gender-based violence survivors? So it's all in the pipe. But what we think needs to happen is to drive it with strong political will. And funding too. And strong financing. Okay, yes, all right. Yes. We could go on and on. Yeah. But then we'd like to thank you for coming on Weekend File tonight. Thank you very much. We'll be talking with the Secretary General, Women's Rights Advancement and Protection Alternative Rapper, Saudatu Mahdi. Now, talking sports. The Tigers beat hosts Rwanda 82-63 points in their second game of the 2021 AfroBasket qualifiers, and in the CAF Confederation Cup, ASF Giraffe Football Club beat Kano Pillars 3-1, while Rivers United also lost 1-2 to Futuro Kings. Now let's join Olumide Eguntola for more sports.
Our two-time African champions, Enyimba of Aba, will on Sunday attempt to move a step closer to the group stage of the CAF Champions League when the team play away to Raimo FC of Burkina Faso. The second leg is scheduled for Aba Township Stadium on the weekend of December 4th to 6th. Similarly, Nigeria's second representative in the Champions League, Petro United, will on Sunday host Simba FC of Tanzania. The second leg is scheduled for Tanzania. Moving on to volleyball, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps and Nigeria Customs Service are the match champions of the Nigeria Volleyball Federation Cup Tag Top 8 held at the Indoor Sports Hall of the University of Ilorin. In the female final, the winners of the 2019 National Premier League, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, beat Nigeria Customs 3-1 at 25-18, 25-25, 25-19, and 25-22, while the more experienced, star-studded, and winners of the 2019 National Premier League, Nigeria Customs Service team overran the youthful and mighty Kano Pillars team 3-0 at 25-21, 25-16, and 25-20 to match the best male volleyball team in Nigeria.
It took hard work, determination, and commitment to get to where we are today. We moved one step ahead from third to second. I believe this is our first final. So it's a very good build-up. But I want a sponsor where he will say, oh, in the next 3 years or 4 years, I'm going to sponsor this competition.
In cricket, as part of doubling a development program, the Nigeria Cricket Federation has concluded arrangements to unveil one of the game's most respected development coach, Ashanka Grozina, from Sri Lanka as the national team coach. The event is slated for Abuja in December. From the English Premier League, action continues on Sunday as Chelsea takes on Tottenham Hotspur, while Manchester United lock arms with Southampton. With sports updates, Olumide Eguntola, NTA News.
Weather forecast is next.
Yeah.
let's look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours. The coastal part of the country is expected to be quiet with no prospect of morning weather, as cloudiness is expected over the region. And moving into the day, the weather prospects over the coast look slim, especially over Calabar, Eket, and Port Harcourt. And of course, the north and central region are expected to be sunny and hazy. And that's our bit from here. Stand by for the temperature forecast. I am Akami Somerda. Thanks for watching.
We'd like to thank you for watching the Weekend File on the NTA tonight. My name is Kenan Ima Amuriken. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.